Welcome to Eloquent Insights, the podcast where we explore the stories that inspire and the voices that resonate. Hosted by Nicole Jamu and Oprah Manyika, we're here to dive deep into the journeys of extraordinary individuals who are making their mark on the world. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Hilton Mudariki, the captain of the Zimbabwe Rugby team, the Sables, and a standout player in the Zimbabwe Rugby Union. Beyond his achievements on the field, Hilton is here to share his powerful story of battling mental health struggles and facing discrimination in sports. Join us as we uncover the challenges he's overcome, the lessons he's learned, and how he's using his platform to drive change and inspire others. This is an episode that you won't want to miss. It is an episode filled with eloquent insights.
Yeah, it definitely does come with a lot of pressure. You are representing the country and you're leading the country. I've always had that mentality of I am the best in my position and I'm going to be in the team. Not so much from arrogance, but because of how hard I work.
Yeah.
It's so funny, I was in France and I was having a conversation with our physio. She could tell that something wasn't right with me, and then so we're having coffee, and then that's when I kind of opened up to him and said, at the moment, the respect of women, those kinds of things, because of the background that he came from and things that he had to go through, he shares that stuff openly.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
I'm like, I've never seen Hilton off the pitch, although I'm low-key. I've never seen him on the pitch, but I just know of, the things that he does on the pitch. And I always see on his Instagram, he's in the gym all the time, lifting weights. I'm like, yes, here's to us achieving those goals.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel any pressure being the captain?
Yeah, it definitely does come with a lot of pressure. Obviously you are representing the country and you're leading the country, but I almost don't see it as pressure. I see it more as a privilege. I'm very privileged to be in the position that I'm in, and I'm obviously very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. Look at him, well spoken.
Very calm. Like, you're giving them too cool.
It's like the captain can't get his words minced. He has to be on point all the time. But we love that. I mean, I love that for you, and I love it when people take responsibility for their country, because a lot of youths, especially when they discover athletic talent or any sort of talent, the thing that comes to their head is, I need to leave and I need to go to another country. Have you ever felt the pressure to leave?
Yeah, definitely. I think in my early years, that was always the case. I did go to school in South Africa, and I guess it did open a lot of doors for me, which allowed me to experience the world. I've played overseas, I've played in the UK, I've played in France. So I've had the exposure, but I think I got to a point in my career where I wanted to give back to where it all began, which is back home. And I'm trying to do that at the moment and trying to build Zimabwe Rugby up so that we don't have so many people leaving, like you mentioned, but them being hungry to stay in the country and want to play for the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's amazing. But what do you think the future of sports in Zimbabwe is? Because we have a lot of talent within the country, but something's lacking.
Definitely. I think a lot of infrastructure. There's a very big gap between our high school system, our club system, and obviously towards our national level.
Yeah.
So if we got that gap sorted out, because a lot of kids will attend high school here, but after high school they're going overseas, going to university elsewhere. That talent is lost, or they're going to play for a different country, so that talent is lost. So if we can manage to sort out that gap, I think we will be in a very good state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's come back to young Hilton, maybe like 5-year-old Hilton. If he remembers what it was like when he was 5, was he always like an collected child? Were you always active around the house?
Yeah, I think from a very young age, I kind of made the decision that I wanted to be a sportsman. I hated being in the classroom.
Yeah.
Hated studying, but I think I made that decision from a very early age, and that's allowed me to chase and pursue my dream of being a professional sportsman. It wasn't always rugby, it was cricket initially, and then from there, I think rugby probably developed when I went to school in South Africa. But yeah, that was always me. Outdoors, or obviously just doing anything that involved sport, that was my thing.
Oh, wow. But I imagine what your parents' reaction was when you told them that you want to be a sportsman, because You know, like a lot of Zimbabwean parents would say, oh, you need to have like a conventional job, a stable job. Sports could get you injured and you have no source of income after that. Like, what was it like for you?
So earlier on, from what I remember, my dad is very strict. And he was like a bookworm, and so obviously no sport unless you get the books in. But then I think later on, they both kind of realized that there is opportunities in sport to to excel, and you don't always have to follow the same route that everyone kind of follows of go to school, go to university, get your degree. Although obviously a degree is very important, and that was always the conversation we had with our parents. If you want to take this rugby thing on seriously, get your degree. So I had to
why is a degree very important? Because what did you study at university?
Sports psychology.
Okay.
Yeah, I studied sports psychology. I think it's just more of like a fallback. Rugby is a contact sport, and it does come with a lot of injuries, career-ending injuries as well. So just to have something to fall back on. So that was the conversations that we used to have, and very happy that I managed to get through those 3 years and got my degree, and it allowed me to pursue my career full time.
You mentioned that you're always usually in the gym working out. What does that do to your mental health? Like, how important is like working out for mental health?
It's very important. I think it just allows you to just be, well, for me, speaking about myself, it just allows me to be like in a space where I'm not really thinking about everything that's on the outside. It's almost like my own little bubble. That's how I feel like when I'm training, so in the gym or on the field. It's almost like when I step on those 4 lines onto the field, I kind of forget about everything else that's happening.
Okay.
And I'm almost in my happy place. Or even if I'm in the gym and I'm training, that's how I feel like. So from a mental health point of view, those are like my getaway places that I really enjoy and take time out and just be in my own space.
But like getting to the topic of the day today, I mean, we were here to speak about difficulties in navigating through difficult phases in whatever sphere of your life. And I will start by probably putting you on the spot for a little bit. Like, how do you define failure?
Ooh, that is a tough one. Obviously, I think setting goals and not achieving them. So not achieving the goals that you've set. I think that's always been something that I've battled really hard with, especially in the sports kind of scene that I'm in. Right the way from when I was a young boy, if I didn't make a certain team, or if I didn't score some points or score some runs, I always saw that as failure, and I really battled throughout my career. I think probably only the last couple of years I've kind of gotten past that it's not necessarily failure, but it's something that you can learn from and improve on. In a nutshell, just to answer your question, I think that's how I define it.
Okay. It's quite interesting that you speak of struggling to deal with failure, and I think that's a lot of Black males' issue, like where they actually struggle to internalize with the idea that I wasn't able to achieve this. I think they call it like toxic masculinity. Yeah. So it's quite important, like interesting that you said that, because you said that you were dealing with it, but have you dealt with it? Is it something that you know how to deal with now?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've learned to deal with, and it just takes me back to not qualifying for the World Cup. This was about 2 years ago, and I think during that time I learned a lot more about myself and about coming short. But obviously, coming short, there's so many lessons that you can learn from that, which allowed me to get over that failure period. Because initially, like before that, if I failed, I wouldn't talk to anyone. I would just kind of be in my own bubble. I don't want to be around anyone. Kind of lock myself up and put myself in this little box, and I'm in that box for 2 to 3 weeks. Like it was really, really bad.
Wow. Yeah.
But I've realized that talking about it helps a lot.
Okay.
And I think that's something that us as men struggle to do.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've learned in the last couple of years, that talking and sharing how you feel definitely helps and gets that weight and that off your shoulders.
And like a lot of people speak of failure as adults, but I think even children recognize failure. But my first experience of failure, because I was always this, A student growing up in primary school, early school, and this one time a newcomer, this girl came in my class and she took first position, and we had a 1 mark difference I literally came
Wow.
second because
What a tragedy.
I came second because I lost that 1 mark from her. And I remember beating myself down. I had all A's, but because I came second, I was like, but all I know is coming out number 1. And this is not what happened this term. And I think I was grade 5, thereabouts. But when you're young, everyone is like, you don't have to worry about anything. Do you ever recollect your first memory of what felt like failure to you?
Probably not making the 18, and I expected to be in there. I've always had that mentality of I am the best in my position and I'm going to be in the team, not so much from arrogance, but because of how hard I work.
Yeah.
So when I didn't make the team, I was kind of shocked and like beat down because I didn't. And I think that like forced me to work even harder. A couple of weeks later, I ended up being in the team that I wanted to be in. But that's probably like my earliest memory. That was probably like a grade 2, I think.
Wow, that was so early on.
Very early, yeah, very, very early.
But I think like a big part of, defining failure is the expectation that comes with being a high performer and, always being successful. Do you think that that's what it is for you, or is it a different thing? Is it failure based on your personal standards, or it's on other people's standards? And if it's other people, how have you been able to counter that?
I think it's a bit of both. Obviously, you set yourself standards, you set yourself goals, and you want to achieve them. But at the same time, people are looking up to you, especially if you're in a position kind of that I'm in. You're almost like under the microscope. Everyone's always looking at you and watching what you do, and so you almost feel pressure to always be the perfect person. And it's so funny. I was in France and I was having a conversation with our physio. She could tell that something wasn't right with me, and then so we're having coffee, and then that's when I kind of opened up to him and said, I don't know how to deal with this because I feel like I need to be the perfect person all the time. Like I can't be sad, or I can't not smile because I've got my teammates looking up to me. I've got the country looking up to me. I've got my brother looking up to me, my parents looking up to me. So I almost need to be that person who's the perfect person, and that eventually eats you up.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where
because that doesn't exist.
Exactly.
That's not,
And you get to a point where you're actually like, I actually can't do this anymore. So it is hard because, you feel like you always have to be that perfect person. It does come with a lot of pressure. But I think once you kind of understand yourself and understand, as you said, that there's no such thing, life becomes a lot more easier.
But it takes a lot, actually, to get to a point where you're like, I've put in my best, and whether people take it or leave it, I've put my best foot forward. Is that where you are now?
Definitely. I mean, you're going to have people that your best is never going to be the best, and you're never going to always please people. And I think that's one thing that you have to understand, that there's always going to be someone that's going to hate, regardless of how hard you try or how hard you work in whatever you're doing. So it's just about understanding that your best is the best and not what someone else might think.
But, let's talk about it coming out of a hole where you have successive defeats. Because I know it's easier to talk of one failure and then you're successful and you're successful afterwards. But what happens when you have 3 consecutive failures and everyone just seems to say, no, you're not good enough for this, and you try out something and it doesn't work out? Have you ever been there, and how did you navigate towards that?
Yeah, we have. And I mean, when you talk about failures, I've been in 3 World Cup qualifying campaigns that we haven't qualified for, and people expect you to be in there. I mean, you're representing the country expects you to be there. There's almost like it's non-negotiable. So it has been tough, and people do say what they want to say. Some very nasty things.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're in a world of social media where everything is out there. So it's almost like targeted at you. But I think it just comes down to mental strength, and something that I have always been good at from a very young age. Very resilient, mentally tough to a certain degree, and it's just about directing that negativity to almost fuel you to want to be better. But it is tough because you go through 3 defeats. You there's risk of you getting dropped from the team. You know, people are calling out other people to be tried out. But if you just continue to work hard and work hard and work hard, you will be rewarded. I always believe that hard work always pays off. So just the more you work, the harder you work, you know, the luckier you're going to get.
Oh, wow. You speak of like mental strength. There's this like trend on social media like that black women shouldn't be like strong black women anymore because we don't want to be strong black women anymore. We want to live the softer life. You're a black man, and I'm pretty sure within your field, there's times that you face challenges as a black man in your field. Oh, is it not?
No, definitely. And I think I felt it a lot more when during my period in South Africa. South Africa, in their sporting system, have the quota system, where a certain amount of there has to be a certain amount of players of color within the team. But it's so weird because I wasn't South African, I wasn't seen as a black person, so I didn't count. So, for example, if you had to have 5 black people on a team, and let's say there were 6 of us, I wouldn't count. I'm counted as a white player, basically. So this is
it's very absurd though.
because obviously they're trying to promote their own.
Right.
So I'm not South African. I can't contribute towards their sport, for example. So rather than picking me, rather pick a black South African in my sport. So I had to deal with things like that. When I went to the UK, I was in a club and I was the only black person in the whole club.
So
players,
of roles,
and that's players, that's coaching staff, that's kitchen staff, admin, the whole club. And there were about maybe 2,000 people within the club, the whole organization. I was the only one. So being in that, I always felt like I was seen as like a nobody. I was always there in our class. I was always like, he's there, but he's not really there. You know, you hear like, you know, there's like weird jokes that some people like kind of throw out there that aren't meant to be offensive, but then you're like,
like,
you know, had to go through things like that. But then it just goes back to the mental strength. I knew why I was there. I knew that, okay, I'm trying to better my life. I'm trying to achieve what I've set out to achieve from the time I was 5-6 years old. So that just kind of helped me to like knuckle down, put my head down, and just keep working and not let those kinds of things affect me.
It's quite surprising that you say that as a black man. When you went to the UK, you felt like you were not existing. I would have thought that you felt the opposite, which is more just like everybody has an eye on you, like there's a black man, the strong one here, like we need him to do so well. Did you not feel that pressure at all?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't. I think like the UK is quite, I'm just comparing South Africa and the UK now. The UK is quite open. I think they're a bit more open-minded than South Africa would be. Whereas like in South Africa, that kind of thing would be seen like, okay, he's not necessarily like a black man, but like he's a foreigner from Zimbabwe, for example. That's like easy for them. But then in the UK, it's just like, oh, it's just one of the black guys that are part of us, and then they just kind of like go with it because it's nothing like new to them. Whereas like in South Africa, it's like, okay, no, he's a foreigner. They kind of like pick out the nitty-gritty things. Whereas like in the UK, it was kind of
Oh, but
I actually felt a little bit more better being in the UK and just being the one guy than being in South Africa, where it's like, you know, a bit more tense.
But that's quite ironic though, especially coming from another African country, because you think because there's more black people, they know the struggle that black people go through and what it means to like elevate black people, and it's the exact opposite. Was there ever times that you felt threatened, like in your personal space, that you didn't feel safe at all? Or was it just limited to your professional career?
No, it was actually pretty cool. I enjoyed my time with literally all the clubs that I played with. You know, people were open. I made some good friends, lifelong friends, people that wanted to understand a bit more about me, where I'm from, how I am mentally. And you know, we had these conversations. It's actually become quite a big thing within sports teams now, having mental health conversations and finding out how you are as a person. I might know you on the rugby field as this person who plays rugby, but I don't know you for you. And how you actually are. And it just goes back to the point that I brought just now, where, you know, people put on an act every single day. So a lot of people put on actively single day, and you think the person's perfectly fine, and then all of a sudden, something has to happen for you to realize, actually, no, this person hasn't been okay the whole time. But now we've taken it on that, having things like psychologists come in and you start talking to people, start talking to your teammates, and then they start understanding a bit more about you. It makes that team environment so much better because we spend so much time together on the field, on tours, in hotels, on team buses. So getting to know Nicole from Nicole is so, so important.
Yeah, and I like that you speak of, building these personal relationships with your teammates. I remember just commenting this one time when you posted a picture with Sia Khalisi, who's like the rugby captain for South Africa now. And, they're in the glory days of rugby in South Africa. Would you say you've taken any takeaways from some of the relationships that you've built towards, navigating through your professional career as well?
Yeah, and like I said, Sia's a very good friend of mine, and just having conversations with him and seeing what he's done for South Africa, but more off the field than on the field. I mean, on the field, everything kind of speaks for itself, but off the field, just in terms of how he is as a person, how he advocates for mental health, how he advocates for gender-based violence, which we know is a very big thing at the moment, the respect of women. Those kinds of things, because of the background that he came from and things that he had to go through, he shares that stuff openly, which allows people like myself to want to, I'm obviously in the space that I'm in, but I want to do so much more. Educate people, show people, and take charge not only on the field, but off the field, and get people following me that we can all make a difference off the field.
Okay, I see that you have a charity.
So we are working on a charity. What I've been doing is I've been working with different charities, just kind of approaching them, seeing what they need, what kind of services I can offer them. But the goal for this year is to set up the Hilton Mudariki Foundation.
Okay, and what's the foundation's aim?
So just to promote, just to give kids opportunities to further their careers. There's so many kids out there that have talent. But that might not necessarily be noticed because of where they are or the background that they come from. And I've been very lucky, I've been privileged to attend some fine schools to be seen. But then there is a future Zimbabwe Sables captain that might be in the township there, but then he doesn't have an opportunity to be seen. And this is where I want to come in and give those kids that opportunity.
That's amazing. And to have, someone step up for you, I mean, the emotional support is always great. Sometimes it doesn't come from immediate family. At times it's from people like you that they come in and, say, here is what I have to offer and, you can go forward. Was there ever a time that you found yourself leaning on someone for emotional support other than yourself?
Yeah. Two people, my mother and my brother.
Wow.
They are pillars of strength for me, good times and bad times. We have such a close relationship, an open relationship where, we're always kind of stepping up for each other. I've had some really dark days, same with my mom, same with my brother, but I always know that they're a phone call away or my mom is a drive away. And so I always lean towards them. And I see what they've gone through, and I see the people that they are, and the example that they've set for me to know that I've got some amazing people to lean towards and to look up to.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing that you speak of like emotional support and like mental health and all that stuff, because I think it's quite vital like in this day and age, because I feel like a lot of black men just don't want to talk about how they're feeling, and before you know it, we don't have them.
And even women, because I think it goes beyond just men wanting to speak up for themselves, but it's also another thing to be afforded a chance to speak. And a lot of women would shy away from an emotional man. They'll be like, I don't want a man that cries, or I don't want a man to tell me how much you had a bad day today at work. Like, they're not allowed a platform to vent. That's
crazy. I love it, man.
Right. I think we're probably one of the few exceptions where we're
Really?
like, I can actually handle a man who knows how to speak his mind and, who can share his deepest thoughts with me. Because a lot of the times it's guys making fun of each other and
Yes.
women being told that that's not being a masculine man.
Yeah.
If a man comes to you and they're crying about their finances or telling you that they had a bad day at work, it means they're not man enough. So it's really comes down to canalization of what were you taught when you were growing up.
Yeah.
But how do you define masculinity? Like, how important is it for men to open up and talk about issues that bother them as well?
I mean, until a couple of years ago, I always felt that we couldn't because it's not man enough, and especially being in like this sport that I'm in, it's rough, it's tough. You're meant to be a man. You can't cry. We're always told never to cry. So if you got like
Who's telling you this?
coaches from like when you're much younger, they're like,
Wow.
no, don't cry.
I need to bit them up.
Don't cry. And it's something that I took on for a very long time because obviously that's what I was first taught. Like, you don't cry. You're tough. You men that play rugby don't cry. So that's what I was always taught. But then I think as I've gotten older, I started to understand that it's okay to cry. I mean, I know the cameras are honest, but I'll be honest, I'm a very emotional person. I cry a lot.
And I always say this, I commend men that are emotional. My dad is emotional. I grew up with an emotional father who, if he was sad, he would cry. And I knew that it's okay for a man to cry, which is why I think, for the most part, I'm okay if my partner comes home and says, I'm not feeling okay today. And I know what that means for them.
No, it is so important. I mean, it's literally just, as I mentioned earlier, it just takes that weight off your shoulders. Like, I can breathe. And also just coming to someone that you trust and that will understand you makes it so much more better because you can really open up to them. I think, and that's why men kind of hold back because we're seen as the breadwinners. We have to make sure we have to make things work and all of that. We can't show our weaknesses. But I definitely encourage men to release that load and just cry. Just cry.
You know what? Like these people like Shaddai, and I'll say this out in the open. I'm pretty sure if you're sitting in this city, you'll be like, no, is he doing that? Because he calls it feminizing men. Or turning them into females because now they're turning on the emotional side. What's your take on that? Like, if men are more expressive, is that them becoming less of men?
No, definitely not. I think it's kind of, you're almost showing more of yourself because you've got that side too. You're not like hiding it back. And then, because then if you wait for too long, hold things in for a very long time, like you said, it might eat you up so badly that we might not have that person.
100%. And if we're also talking on gender-based violence, a lot of men suppress all these emotions and go home, maybe they're married, and take it out on their partners because, like, where are you putting those emotions? If you're not crying them out, do you know what I mean? Like, where are they going? Like, how do you make relationships with people? Like, it could be mothers, it could be whoever that you're living with, like friends. What's going on? Why are you not speaking? Why are you not crying?
But I'm curious to hear from Hilton because you speak of, having a mom and her being your biggest supporter and your biggest pillar of strength. Was there something that she taught you that you think shaped you as a man, even though she's not a man? Because, sometimes people will say, oh, if you're going to be a real man, you have to be taught by a man how to be a man.
Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, for myself, my brother, for a long period of time during our years of growing up, she played the mom and the dad role. So she definitely taught us a lot. But I think one thing that I can take away from her is just her resilience. I mean, she managed to send 2 boys to a really good school in South Africa, which opened up amazing opportunities for us. It wasn't easy. It was obviously during the time where the country was kind of in turmoil and things were tough, but she managed to do that. She managed to successfully run, before they went down with COVID. She was doing very well at South African Airways. So she just kind of set the standard for us. We were almost like chasing her, like, okay, this is what mom's doing. We need to make sure that we kind of get to that level. So she was, yeah, I think if I can take one thing away, it's probably resilience. She never gave up on what she wanted to do and what she believed in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy because I think, have you not noticed a trend? Like every single person that comes here, they've been raised by a single mom.
Yeah, like it's actually a thing.
But it is a thing. It is a thing for a lot of Zimbabwe men, a lot of black males. Why do you think that like black males are not able to stay in relationships, or is it them? Is it us? Who is the problem?
Sure, that's a bit of a tough one. But if I had to kind of make a comment, I think it comes down to probably pressure, because I think some men don't feel, or they feel that they're not playing their part, so they feel that if they step away from that, it might be better for that person, that the family, So I think it's a bit of a tough, because I've never been in it, but I think I would say pressure kind of plays a key role, and also going back to what we said, not opening up and not being able to talk. If I had to go to my partner and say, listen, financially I'm struggling, or this is happening, or things aren't aligning well, she might have a go at me, but this needs to be paid, that needs to be paid, this needs to be done, daughter needs to go to work. Now you've got all these things.
Do you think that's how you would react to if a male came to you and said like, there's no money here? Would you be like, you need to go find money? Or
No, I think, and I will say this is because of my parents. We've obviously been in situations where my mom was earning more than my dad, and sometimes is unemployed, and she has to carry the financial load of the family. But I like that my family is very dynamic in that they don't have clear-cut roles of you're the person that's doing the laundry, you're the person that's cooking. You could just walk into a house now and my dad is cooking dinner. So it's never been a thing of a man has to provide financially. It's who has the capacity to do that at this moment. If my mom comes back from work today and she's tired, my dad is in a position to say, well, yeah, because I also work. He can see my daughter is also tired, and so is the mom. But I'm in the capacity to cook, so why not cook for the rest of the family? So it's always been that sometimes it's shared duties.
Yes.
They do laundry together. So I feel like I had a good example to take away from. It's just been, how do you get along together, and how do you choose to divide yourselves within the needs of the household?
It all comes down to conversations. Have that conversation of, okay, we don't have clear-cut roles, but then we're going to help each other. And this is how I'm going to piggy off you when I'm struggling. You're going to piggy off me. It's just about having those conversations, because sometimes you get into something, and then those roles, because that's what society gives us, you kind of go in with that. Although your partner or your family might not necessarily have thought that way, but then you've gone in with that, so they're just saying, oh, okay, well, that's what he wants to go with. And then the pressure kind of eventually builds on. So just having those conversations is really important.
Because I was going to say, she's not understanding that life can be tough sometimes.
But because I mean, with African setups, it's very complex. It's responsibilities that you have for your immediate family. It's responsibilities that you have for your extended family. Even you have to take care of your brother and his children and whoever. So it really is just, it goes beyond your household of mom, dad, and the children. It even comes down to us, the black text thing, which brings me to what was going to be my next question to Hilton. Like, you sound like you're the oldest child. Was there ever a time that you felt pressure to be the man of the house?
Yes, definitely. During, I think all of us went through a very tough time during COVID. Where, especially if you look in my industry, my contract was cut when I was in the UK. Had absolutely nothing, had no backup plan, because that was always my thing. And I had a couple of years left in my contract, so I always thought to myself, okay, I've got 2 to 3 years to kind of work out what the next thing is. COVID hit, got taken away from me. Caught the last flight out to come back home, rather obviously be home with family. My mom, her industry also, she's in the travel business. The exact same thing. There's no travel happening, jobs being cut. So I had to kind of step up. That's where I felt the pressure of being the man of the house. I needed to make sure that things worked. We were currently building, and so there were so many pressures that were going on, but I think it just helped me grow as a person, helped me get out of my comfort zone. I ended up doing something that I'm currently doing outside of rugby, and I've started enjoying it. It's something that I want to take on when I'm done playing. So although it was a bad time for us, it kind of opened up doors.
It came with good as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I would say, like, what does being man of the house entail?
Just making sure that things are working. So you like, I don't know,
Making
just
sure things are working.
just make sure that things are in place. That there is obviously, like, with us, we've got a like what you have with your family. No designated thing of you doing this and you doing that. You kind of just do it whenever you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are times where you feel like you need to go that extra mile, just to make sure that things are in place and things are in order. Because mom might have a very busy day at work, but then they're builders that are meant to be sorting things out, just step up and get it done, or something like that. So that's how I kind of see it, but more of sharing roles.
No, the reason why I ask is it might sound absurd asking that question, but it's because a lot of the times, as about local culture, let me just term it that, would kind of advocate that you're selfless, you're always providing for other people, and there seems to be no gap for you to work towards what you want, because you're giving this person that, you providing financial support, emotional support, and especially for us, we are in our 20s, and that's the time that you're also trying to figure yourself out. You probably want to acquire property for yourself. You're looking towards, building a family of your own. What has that been like for you?
To be honest, I think it hasn't been too bad for me to kind of discover myself and to look at different opportunities. I think it's more because of the generation that we've grown up in. I think more understanding parents. My mom is fairly young, so she kind of understands that I'm trying to chase my own thing and try to do my own thing. But I think just in general, I think the mentality has changed from when our parents were kind of in our positions now, where they were told, okay, you need to go to work to look after mom and dad. That's your job.
Yeah.
But I think just in general, I think the mentality has changed from when our parents were kind of in our positions now, where they were told, okay, you need to go to work to look after mom and dad. That's your job.
Yeah.
But now I think our parents are saying, no, go out into the world, discover yourself, set yourself up. And obviously they will be there to help you out, or whenever you're kind of standing on your own feet, you will naturally just help them out. But then there's no pressure of, okay, go and do this because you need to look after us.
Yeah, and it's funny that I always see like Hollywood people saying sometimes you need to cross the river alone, and even Michelle Obama says it in one of her books that you cannot carry the whole generation with you. At times it takes being the person that goes forward and then coming back to get the others. So I like that that's the story for you. But obviously, I would have loved to continue with this conversation because, we're really warming up and it was becoming deep. But all the same, we'd really love that you came on and you were so candid with some of the things that you're going through, especially as a man. Because men barely speak about the emotional troubles, even financial, whatever trouble that they're going through. But it's a culture that we have on Eloquent Insights all the time. When someone comes on, we ask them a question. And
this was not a joke.
No, stop. No. I promise you, it's got nothing to do with biceps. But so basically, it's asking for a quote or a statement that you live by. If you're a spiritual person, it could be a Bible verse. It could be something that you actually came up with yourself. So we'll say, a wise man once said, and you complete the sentence.
A wise man once said, hard work will always pay. It's always been, I know it sounds very cliche, but it's always been something that I've lived by. I've gone through so much adversity with rugby, but I've never given up. I've always worked hard, whether it's waking up at 5 a.m. to go for a run, or staying after training to do my extras just so that I could be better for the next day. And just living by that quote has helped me get through so much adversity. So hard work always pays off.
That's quite deep. But thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And thank you to everyone who watched this episode. I hope that it was inspirational enough for you to know that, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I know everyone goes through their phase of troubles, but, dark times never last. And remember to follow us on our social media, Eloquent Insights on YouTube, to look up for any new episode. You can also find us on Instagram. That's ELOQ_IN on Instagram and on TikTok. We put out fun content for you all the time, so make sure that you're connected, and we'd love to hear from you. But otherwise, see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.